With one more glance to check that they weren't being scrutinized, she ushered her kits into the branches.
Ouch! It's prickly!
Squeaked Petal Kit. Don't stop, Mapleshade urged. And with a rapid beat of paws on hard earth, the kits burst out of the tunnel and stopped dead, staring around.
Wow! Outside the camp's really big!
Breathed Large Kit. Yes, and it's even bigger at the top of the ravine. Mapleshade meowed. She nudged her kits towards the path that led to the trees. Her fur prickled at the thought of being seen by a returning patrol. The kits scrambled up the slope, Petal Kit in the lead. They looked even tinier among the tree trunks, the towering oaks and beeches that overhung the ravine. Mapleshade hurried them along a little-used path beneath the dense ferns. The kits wanted to stop and sniff every leaf and every mark on the ground, but Mapleshade kept them moving, ducking beneath the sweet-smelling fronds and hoping that the fern scent would cover their tracks. As the undergrowth began to thin out, the sound of splashing water drifted through the trees. Large Kit pricked his ears.
What's that?
He meowed. As he tried to peer through the stalks, he stumbled over a fallen twig and landed on his nose. Mapleshade whisked him back to his paws before he could let out a wail. I'm glad Rabbit Fur didn't see that, she thought. She could not deny that these kits were clumsier than their ThunderClan kin. Patch Kit had kept going while Mapleshade picked up his brother, and Mapleshade suddenly heard a squeak of surprise.
Water! Water everywhere! Look!
His littermates bundled forward to stand beside him at the edge of the bracken. Mapleshade joined them and looked out at the dazzling brightness of the river as it flowed past, swift and sparkling.
It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen!
Petal Kit whispered.
Where did it come from?
Meowed Large Kit. Mapleshade thought for a moment. I really don't know, she admitted. Farther upstream is a deep gorge beside WindClan's territory.
Can we go there?
Petal Kit demanded. Mapleshade shook her head. No, little one, it's too far for you to walk today. But one day you'll see it, I promise. Patch Kit, who was usually so timid and happy to let his littermates try everything first, tottered over the stones to the edge of the water. Be careful, Mapleshade warned. Her son turned to look at her, his eyes shining and droplets of water glinting on his whiskers.
It's okay,
he meowed.
Watch me!
Before Mapleshade could stop him, he launched himself forward and slipped into the water. For one heart-stopping moment, he vanished. Then his ginger and white face bobbed up to the surface.
Look at me!
He squealed. Large Kit and Petal Kit raced down to the shore and plunged in. For a few strides, their little paws dug into the pebbles while the fur lapped at their fluffy bellies. And then they were swimming through the rolling water. Mapleshade felt a burst of love like the sun coming out. Oh, Appledusk, our kits are half RiverClan for sure. Patch Kit reached a branch sticking out of the water and hauled himself onto it. Water streamed from his pelt, leaving it as glossy as crow's feathers. He looked no bigger than a mouse with his fur flattened to his sides, and his flanks heaved as he caught his breath. Mapleshade felt a jolt of concern. Are you okay? She called. Patch Kit nodded, still panting too hard to speak. Mapleshade paced up and down the shore. She hated the idea of getting her paws wet, but she wasn't sure if Patch Kit had enough strength to swim back on his own. The other kits were playing hide-and-seek in a clump of reeds close by the shore. Large Kit! Petal Kit! Go help your brother! She meowed. Suddenly, the rushes on the far shore rustled and a dark gray head appeared. Mapleshade froze. It was Spiketail, the RiverClan deputy. In the middle of the river, Patch Kit slumped on the branch, his cheek resting on the slick bark. What is that kit doing? Growled Spiketail. He stepped onto the shore, the fur along his spine bristling. Mapleshade opened her mouth to speak, but two more warriors were emerging from the rushes beside Spiketail. Is ThunderClan sending their youngest cats to invade us? Asked Milkfur, her white pelt glowing against the stones. The third cat met Mapleshade's gaze across the river. From this distance, his green eyes were unreadable. I'll return him to where he belongs. He waded into the water, his pale brown fur turning black as he slid beneath the surface. Large Kit, Petal Kit, come here, Mapleshade hissed. The kits waded towards her, looking scared.
Is that RiverClan warrior going to catch us?
Petal Kit squeaked. Mapleshade watched Appledusk's head bob steadily closer to the branch. No, she meowed. You're safe, don't worry. Appledusk mewed something to Patch Kit, too quietly for Mapleshade to hear. Patch Kit slithered down the branch and into the water. The RiverClan warriors steadied him with one paw and then began to propel him towards the ThunderClan shore. Mapleshade realized that the other kits were trembling from cold, and she bent her head to lick their fur. "Are we in trouble?" Large Kit mewed. "Hush, everything is fine," Mapleshade murmured between licks. Appledusk waded out of the river, with Patch Kit dangling from his jaws. He set the kit down on the stones and nudged him to his feet. "I think this one's worn out from all the swimming," he commented. His eyes burned into Mapleshade's. "You took a risk bringing them this close to our boundary." "I wanted to show them the river," Mapleshade meowed. She angled her body so that the kits were bundled behind her, out of earshot. She could hear Large Kit asking Patch Kit what it had been like to swim so far out. Appledusk leaned forward until his muzzle was almost touching Mapleshade's cheek. "They're wonderful," he breathed, strong and brave, and as confident as any RiverClan cat in the water. "I'm so proud of you." He straightened up and raised his voice. "And I don't want to see you and these kits anywhere near the river again," he meowed, but the longing in his eyes told a different story. Mapleshade bowed her head. "Oh, of course, Appledusk. Thank you for bringing Patch Kit back." Appledusk glanced once more at the kits and then headed back into the water. "Those kits are not old enough to be outside the nursery," Milkfur called across the river. "What were you thinking of bringing them here? They could have drowned." "You may have won, Sunning Rocks, but the river still belongs to us," yelled Spiketail. "Appledusk has been merciful this time, but from now on, stay away from our territory." Mapleshade herded the kits into the bracken. They were bouncing on their paws, even Patch Kit, whose fur was fluffing up like a thistledown as it dried.
That was the best thing ever!
Squeaked Large Kit.
When can we come here again?
Petal Kit asked.
Swimming is way more fun than jumping. I swam the furthest, didn't I?
Meowed Patch Kit proudly. Suddenly, a dark shape blocked the path. Mapleshade looked up and met Ravenwing's searching blue gaze. The medicine cat glanced down at the kits. "What were they doing in the river? What were they doing in the river?" he asked. Mapleshade's paws started to tingle. Did you see them?" she whispered. Ravenwing nodded. "I saw everything. What's going on, Mapleshade?" Before Mapleshade could reply, the kits tumbled over themselves to tell him about their adventure.
A RiverClan warrior had to save Patch Kit.
Meowed Large Kit.
He did not. I was just resting.
Patch Kit interrupted crossly. "It was fine. No one was in any danger," Mapleshade meowed, as Ravenwing narrowed his eyes.
The RiverClan cat was really nice,
Squealed Patch Kit.
He said I was very brave and a really good swimmer.
Huh. Did he?
Meowed Ravenwing.
What else did he say?
Ravenwing took a step closer. Mapleshade curled her tail around her kits. "Come on, little ones. It's time to get home." But Ravenwing didn't move out of the way.
"I've seen an omen, Mapleshade,"
he murmured.
"I wonder if you know anything about it."
There was something in his voice that made Mapleshade's fur prick. Why would I know anything about an omen? I'm not a medicine cat. Ravenwing stared at her without blinking.
"A tiny stream appeared in my den, in a place where no stream has run before. It carried with it 3 pieces of water reed."
He swept over the ground as if he was tracing the path of the rivulet.
"Water reed doesn't grow in ThunderClan territory. It doesn't belong inside our boundaries. Do you understand?"
Mapleshade shrugged. Oh, there's been so much rain this leaf fall. Bits and pieces must be washing all over the place. She tried to keep her voice light, but there was a cold and heavy feeling in her belly, as if she had swallowed a stone from the river. Ravenwing watched the kits play with an acorn, shuffling it from one to the other with their paws.
"I think that this omen means that the river has washed 3 strange cats into ThunderClan. 3 cats who don't belong here."
Mapleshade's heart was pounding so hard that she could barely breathe. "What are you trying to say?" she whispered. Ravenwing gazed at her, and suddenly he didn't seem like a young, inexperienced cat anymore. Knowledge glittered in his eyes like frosty stars. Birchface is not the father of these kits, is he? Rabbit Fur told me what happened today, how they showed no signs of being able to stalk or pounce like him. And don't tell me that they take after you instead, he added, cutting Mapleshade off as she opened her mouth. You tread as lightly as any ThunderClan warrior. He looked past her, at the river splashing beyond the shades of the trees. I watched your kids swim in that river, as if they were fish. Yes, I think these cats were fathered by a RiverClan cat. Apple Dusk, I guess. Judging by the color of their fur, and by the way that he spoke to them when he brought Patch Kit back. Mapleshade felt the ground sway beneath her paws. ThunderClan is blessed to have 3 beautiful, strong kits, she hissed. The truth will be revealed at the right time. It's not my fault that everyone assumed Birchface was their father. I cannot let you lie to our clanmates, Ravenwing spat. And now that I know the truth, I cannot lie either. I have told you nothing. Mapleshade meowed through clenched jaws. You have told me plenty, Ravenwing responded, and there was sadness in his sky-colored eyes. The truth must come out. Please, don't say anything, Mapleshade begged. These are ThunderClan's kits. They are half RiverClan, Ravenwing corrected, his voice as hard as ice. Our clanmates deserve to know. I'm sorry, Mapleshade. Sorry for you, but even sorrier for these kits. They will end up suffering for the lies you've told. Ravenwing whirled around and vanished into the bracken. Mapleshade stared after him. StarClan, help me! For a moment, she considered taking her kits and running deeper into the forest, hiding her kits away from any cat who might harm them. But then, she looked at Petalkit, balancing an acorn on her head, while her brothers tried to knock her off her paws to dislodge it. ThunderClan loves these kits, and they won't do anything to hurt them. I always planned on telling them the truth. It's just happening sooner than I thought. By the time they reached the path leading down to the ravine, the kits were dragging their paws with weariness. We're nearly there, little ones, Mapleshade mewed encouragingly. She hoped that she'd be able to settle them in the nursery and give them a feed before Ravenwing came looking for her. Patch Kit stumbled on the pebbly slope, so Mapleshade let him lean against her shoulder and took almost all of his weight as they descended to the gorse tunnel. Petalkit let out a huge yawn.
I'm so sleepy.
She murmured.
I'm hungry.
Large Kit squeaked.
My belly's rumbling louder than a badger.
They pushed through the gorse tunnel, ducking their heads to keep the sharp twigs out of their eyes. Mapleshade followed, nudging Patchkit in front of her. When she emerged, Large Kit and Petalkit had stopped dead at the entrance. Come on, Mapleshade urged, her attention on Patchkit as he swayed on his feet.
I think something's happening,
Petalkit whispered. Mapleshade looked up. The clearing was ringed with cats, all staring at them. Oakstar stood on the high rock, silhouetted against the trees. Ravenwing crouched below him, his gaze fierce. The deputy, Beetail, was next to the medicine cat, his striped coat ruffled as if he'd been interrupted mid-groom. Mapleshade started to tremble. Patchkit pressed himself against her.
What's wrong?
He whimpered. Oh, it's nothing for you to worry about, Mapleshade told him. Go and, stand over there. She pointed with her tail to a clump of bracken at the edge of the clearing. The 3 kits trotted over in silence and huddled together.
Come here, Mapleshade,
Oakstar commanded. On legs that seemed to be made out of stone, Mapleshade walked forward until she was standing in the center of the clearing. What is it, Oakstar? The dark brown Tom twitched the tip of his tail.
Who is the father of your kits?
He asked.
Tell the truth!
Before Mapleshade could speak, there was a flurry of ginger fur beside her. Frecklewish pushed past the cluster of warriors and joined Mapleshade below High Rock. We know it's Birchface, she called up to Oakstar. Father, why are you asking this?
I want Mapleshade to tell us herself,
Oakstar mewed, his voice soft with menace.
She let me believe that my son Birchface was their father. I cannot imagine that one of my warriors would dare to tell such a lie.
Mapleshade shifted her weight onto her hind paws so that she could hold the leader's gaze. Any clan would be proud to have these kits grow up and serve them, she declared.
Even if they knew the kits were half-clan,
Ravenwing meowed.
we deserve to know the truth, Mapleshade. Appledusk is their father, isn't he?
For a moment, the whole forest seemed to hold its breath. Then there was a screech of pure horror, and Frecklewish launched herself at Mapleshade. Is this true? She yelled, clawing at Mapleshade's face. What have you done? Mapleshade stumbled backwards. Stop! She gasped. She tried to raise her front paws to shield herself, but Frecklewish had her pinned down. Suddenly, the weight was lifted from Mapleshade's belly, and she opened her eyes to see the she-cat being hauled away by Bloomheart and Seedpelt. Mapleshade staggered to her paws. Blood pooled in her eye from a torn eyelid, and her cheek stung from a well-aimed blow. All around her, the cats hissed and muttered. Frecklewish shook off the warriors and glared at Mapleshade. You have betrayed my brother's name, she spat. You have betrayed all of us with your lies and your disloyalty. You don't deserve to be called a warrior. And nor do those half-clan creatures. She curled her lip towards the three kids who cowered beneath the ferns. Their father killed Birchface and Flowerpaw. Get them out of here! Mapleshade shook scarlet drops onto the grass. Why does it matter who their father is? She demanded furiously. I have given ThunderClan 3 fine kits. I am a queen. I should be treated with respect. Oh, StarClan knows we need more warriors. And here they are. Have my clanmates gone mad? They would turn on me like this. Oakstar bounded down from the high rock and stood in front of her. His yellow eyes gleamed with hatred, and he thrust his head forward until his breath blew hotly on Mapleshade's muzzle.
Have you forgotten that Appledusk murdered my son and Flowerpaw? Of all the cats, why did you have to choose him? You cannot possibly expect my forgiveness.
He stepped back and raised his head.
You have betrayed the warrior code and lied to your clanmates. We will not raise these kits within the walls of our camp, nor the boundaries of our territory. Take them and leave. You are no longer a warrior of ThunderClan.
Mapleshade stumbled backwards. You can't mean that. These kits belong to ThunderClan. You have to let us stay. Oakstar shook his head.
No, I do not.
He gazed around at the clan.
Ravenwing told me about an omen he received. A mysterious stream of water that washed 3 pieces of reed into his den. Reeds don't belong in our territory, and certainly not in the heart of our camp. These kits will bring nothing but danger.
Get rid of them! Screeched Frecklewish. Drive them out!
Oakstar's right. They don't belong here,
growled Bloomheart. Mapleshade stared at the gray tabby in horror. You were my mentor, Bloomheart. You know I would never betray my clan.
You already have,
he replied gruffly.
I am ashamed of you.
He turned away, and Mapleshade felt her heart break into pieces. I will never forget this, she hissed, slowly turning to glare at each one of her clanmates. You have betrayed me and my kits. You will live to regret this day forever, ThunderClan. And that is a promise. She stalked over to her kits and swept her tail around them. This is no longer our home, she told them. Come. She prodded them back through the gorse tunnel and up the path. Petalkit fell over and grazed her nose on a stone, but she was too tired to protest. She simply picked herself up and stumbled on as if she knew that there was no point in complaining. Mapleshade felt her heart break a little more.
Why don't they like us anymore?
Whimpered Patchkit as they headed into the trees. It had started to rain, and fat drops thudded onto the ferns around them. It's because they're mouse-brained. That blind, And fox-hearted, Mapleshade hissed.
Those are bad words!
Large Kit mewed.
You're not supposed to say them!
But it's the truth, Mapleshade answered grimly.
What were they saying about our father?
Petal Kit asked.
Don't they like Birchface either?
Mapleshade felt an overwhelming urge to lie down and slip into the darkness of sleep. Oh, I'll tell you everything later, she promised. First, we must get across the river.
We're going swimming again?
Chirped Patch Kit.
But that RiverClan cat said we had to stay away from the water.
Everything is different now, Mapleshade murmured. When they emerged from the shelter of the trees, the rain was pelting so hard that Mapleshade could hardly keep her eyes open.
I don't want to go swimming anymore,
Large Kit moaned.
I want to go home. I wish I was in the nursery.
Petal Kit sniffed.
It's too wet to be outside.
We have no home,
Mapleshade snapped. She had to raise her voice over the pounding of raindrops on the shore. Forget about ThunderClan and the nursery. She stared at the river. The tops of the stepping stones were just visible among the wind-stirred waves. We don't have to swim all the way, she told the kits. Do you see those rocks? We just have to swim from one until the next, until we get to the other side.
But then we'll be in RiverClan,
Patch Kit squeaked.
We're not supposed to go there?
Oh, it's all right. Mapleshade mewed, trying to sound calm. Your father will be pleased to see us. Large Kit tipped his head to one side.
I thought our father was dead.
Mapleshade took a deep breath. You remember that nice RiverClan cat who helped Patch Kit today? He is your father, not Birchface. Large Kit wrinkled his nose.
But that doesn't make any sense. Our father can't be from RiverClan. We're ThunderClan cats.
Yes, ThunderClan, but also half RiverClan, she told him. That's why you liked the water so much today. The three kits' eyes stretched wider until they were like moons.
Is that why our clanmates are mad at us?
Asked Petal Kit. Yes, meowed Mapleshade. She felt the hackles rise along her spine. But they are wrong, she growled. They'll change their minds soon. And until then, we'll live in RiverClan. Everything will be okay. She nudged Petal Kit closer to the river. Come on, we need to cross before it gets dark. The little brown kit hung back.
I don't want to,
she wailed.
There's too much water.
Oh, you'll be fine, Mapleshade insisted. She herded Large Kit and Patch Kit alongside their sister. I'll be right behind you.
Patch Kit looked over his shoulder. Promise we'll be okay?
I promise. The Ginger and White Tom stepped bravely into the waves. Almost at once, water washed over his head, but he fought his way up, spluttering. His littermates followed him. Mapleshade watched the three small heads bob to the first stepping stone. They scrambled out and stood belly deep in the water, shivering. Wait for me, Mapleshade called. I'm coming. Gritting her teeth, she waded into the river. The water sucked at her fur, chilling her to the bone. She forced herself to strike off from the shore and to churn her paws, propelling herself towards the stepping stones. I have to do this for my kits, she told herself, hating every moment. Suddenly, there was a roar from somewhere upstream.
Swim faster!
Screeched Petal Kit.
Something's coming!
Mapleshade glanced sideways to see a wall of water bearing down on her, sweeping branches and debris ahead of it. She paddled furiously, but the current was dragging her away from the stones, not towards them. Hold on! She screeched to the kits as the wave crashed over her head. Mapleshade was thrust to the bottom of the river by the force of the flood. Branches thudded against her, and when she opened her eyes, she saw nothing but bubbles and churned up pebbles. With her chest screaming for air, she clawed her way to the surface and burst out, gasping. Her flailing front paws struck something hard. Unsheathing her claws, she managed to haul herself onto the rock. Somehow, she had made it to the first stepping stone. She looked around. The kits had gone. Mapleshade stared into the water in horror. My kits! Where are you? Any hopes that they had struck out for the second stone vanished when she saw three tiny shapes being swept downstream.
Help!
wailed Petalkit before a wave pushed her under. Mapleshade launched herself off the stone and paddled furiously towards her kits. A pale shape bobbed in front of her. She reached out and managed to hook one claw into the sodden fur. It was Patchkit. His eyes were closed. "Wake up!" Mapleshade screeched. You have to swim!" A faint mew came from somewhere beside her. Mapleshade lifted her head and peered through the waves. Large Kit was clinging to a branch that hung into the river. Gripping Patchkit in her jaws, Mapleshade battled her way over to the tree. She tried to boost Patchkit out of the water, but he was too heavy, and he slipped out of her grasp. "No! No!" Mapleshade yelled as he vanished into the black river. Large Kit lost his grip on the branch and splashed into the water beside her. Mapleshade sank her teeth into his scruff, but the pull of the current was too strong. Large Kit was ripped away from her and swept away with just one tiny cry.
"Oh, Mapleshade, grab a hold of the branch!"
There was a frantic shout from the shore, and Mapleshade saw Appledusk wading into the river, his fur fluffed up in alarm. He gestured with his tail to the overhanging tree.
"Hold on and I'll drag you out!"
Mapleshade was only dimly aware of hooking her claws into the branch beside her. She felt herself being dragged through the water, and then strong jaws were in her pelt, hauling her onto the stones. Appledusk loomed over her.
"What in StarClan's name are you doing? Where are the kits?"
Two more shapes appeared beside him. "What is a ThunderClan cat doing in the river?" asked one. Mapleshade recognized the voice of the young Tom, Splashfoot. "Is it Mapleshade?" asked his companion. I think so, Illtail," yelled Splashfoot. He peered closer, his pale gray fur glowing in the faint light. My kids!" Mapleshade rasped. Save my kids!" Appledusk's face appeared above her, his eyes huge with horror.
"Are you telling me that the kits are in the river?"
Mapleshade nodded, too weak to speak. Illtail was already bounding along the shore. "If the kits are in there, they're going to be in big trouble," she called over her shoulder. Splashfoot raced after her. Appledusk crouched beside Mapleshade.
I'll find them. I promise,"
he whispered. Then he raced away from her. Mapleshade closed her eyes. "StarClan, help my kits," she prayed. "None of this is their fault. Take me if you must, but please, spare them." Mapleshade lay still, feeling the water run off her fur, until she heard paw steps crunching over the stones. She lifted her head and saw Appledusk approaching. In the darkness, she couldn't see his expression. "Did you find them?"
Yes," he meowed. "We found them."
Mapleshade hauled herself to her paws. "Well, where are they?" Wordlessly, Appledusk turned and led her downstream. He pushed his way into a dense clump of reeds and beckoned Mapleshade forward with his tail. Illtail and Splashfoot were standing over three small, dark shapes. Illtail looked up, her eyes brimming with pity. I'm so sorry," she meowed. "We couldn't save them." A ghastly shriek split the air. Mapleshade wondered where the noise was coming from, until she realized that her mouth was wide open. She shut her jaws with a snap and took a step towards her kits. Her legs buckled, and suddenly she was lying beside them, desperately licking each one in turn. "Wake up, little ones," she urged. We made it across the river. You're safe now." Their bodies rolled limply under the strokes of her tongue, and three pairs of eyes stayed closed. Mapleshade pressed her muzzle against Patchkit's cold cheek. "You promised you would never leave me. You promised you would keep me safe." His voice echoed inside her head. I'm sorry," Mapleshade wailed. "I was trying to find us a new home. I didn't know where else to go."
"Wait, what are you talking about?"
Appledusk sounded stunned.
"Do you mean that you deliberately tried to cross the river? In the middle of a flood?"
Mapleshade twisted around to look at him.
"ThunderClan threw us out,"
she explained.
We had nowhere else to go.